With dwindling revenue generation to sustain developmental works in the country, adequate payment of tax appears to be the solution. The Vice President, Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Teju Shomorin, says tax laws are too complex and shield Nigerians from compliance.
Can also translate some of the tax laws, because the people that are selling the informal sector, many of them they cannot read. So maybe we need to translate some of those laws into vernacular, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, make it very easy for them. But the awareness must be there. Then the tax money should be well spent.
Putting the compliance level of Nigerians to tax payments at 30% with hope of an improvement, past President Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Razak Qadri, says government should be more trustworthy in maximizing taxpayers' money.
A major problem that we have in the tax system right now is the fact that people tend to, bring up tax issues without having cognizance of the fact that it has to pass through the assembly, National Assembly and State Assembly. And even in the case of the local government, it still has to pass through the the State Assembly. But what we find out is that people start bring out tax laws just maybe from their bedroom or whatever. And unfortunately, Nigeria find it difficult to even take these people to court. We need to really start asking for our rights. Once we start that, then I think we'll just be paying what we're not supposed to actually pay for.
Stating the readiness of the Society of Women in Taxation to disseminate adequate tax education, the national chairperson of the society, Dinah Rose Ajayi, is of the view that culture of tax payments can be improved if the government gives its citizens enough reason to be committed.
We in Sweets, as women, we are nation builders, we are home builders. We hope to take this back to our houses and beyond.
Just a little glimpse into what taxation is in recent days. But the issue of taxation dates back to colonial Nigeria. You recall Nigerian farmers run to villages wanting to evade tax, probably because they don't have the money or just for mere resentment of the colonial masters. In recent days, it seems to be more complex than that. But apart from people not wanting to pay tax, there are also issues of complexities and in what they call tax codes and several other inequalities in tax rates. I'm joined now on set by Prince Razak Adekule Quadri. He is a Nigerian accountant who was president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria from 2009 and 2011. Was also elected the first president of the West African Union of Tax Institutes. Good morning, Prince.
Good morning.
And thank you for finding time to join us.
My pleasure.
Well, quite a number of reasons why people would want to evade tax. Many would tell you that where is the infrastructure? Nigerian leaders are corrupt. I mean, why would I now add my own hard-earned money to the millions of naira that they cut away? But I also read in one of those materials where you came out to criticize the Nigerian tax laws, describing them as outdated and saying they do not provide a conducive environment for people to pay tax. What are your thoughts along this line?
Maybe we should first talk a little bit about what tax should be. Tax is not new at all. It does not date back to the colonial era. Dates back to as far as the time we have governance, where you have the obas, the emirs. They must finance or fund the activities of the government through a particular source. So those days, usually have communities coming together, individuals coming together and bringing their monies or fund or bringing their materials to actually fund the system.
Okay.
So what we are just having now is maybe a refined style of taxation in those areas. So there is really a movement from bringing yam, bringing rice, all those items, to now paying according to what your incomes are.
Okay.
Which is more scientific.
Okay? Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, taxation, as you must know, is by statute. Where there is no law, there should not be tax. That is basic. So where Nigerians says they are being overtaxed or they're not supposed to pay some taxes, then of course you ask a question: do you have the tax laws, the tax laws backing what the government is asking for. So really, I want to believe that if we have the right tax laws, which will promote good administration, then of course implementation will be quite very much all right.
What exactly are the challenges? Is it that we do not have good laws? Because, of course, the federal government on the other side will also remind you of the recent reforms that include the introduction of TIN, what they call the Taxpayers Identification Number. They've even taken it further to talk about an automated tax system that facilitates tracking of tax positions and issues by individual taxpayers.
Yeah. As far as taxation is concerned, we have laws. We have good ones. Although some of them are really obsolete and they're supposed to have been, taken care of by now. But the problem with our laws is that we really do not implement them the way they are supposed to be implemented. It does not have to do with only taxation. Virtually all the laws that we have in this country, when it comes to implementation, it becomes a big problem. And by the time errors or lapses are discovered in a particular law, going back to the National Assembly, because taxation happens to be the issue of National Assembly. Going back to National Assembly becomes another problem. So it's like we need to get our priority right. Yes, we have reforms that is coming up or that have been coming up. The first reform was in 1978. The most recent one was 2002. But the issue is that we have not been able to implement the reforms beyond the issue of adopting the national tax policy.
Okay.
It goes beyond that, because we should have a free administration. We should have an educated taxpayer. We should be able to tell, or the taxpayer should be able to say with convenience how much my taxes will be in the next 5 years. The investor should be able to look into the country and say, look, by 2017 or thereabout, I should be able to invest in this country, and at the rate of this tax, because I've seen the trend. So these are issues that we are still talking about in Nigerian tax law.
As at May this year, the coordinating minister of economy puts the figure at 65% of corporate Nigerian citizens who do not pay tax. What do you think is responsible for that?
Mostly the issues will be with the government itself. Now, when you talk about oil, you look at the investment of the government in the oil sector. I was at a particular conference, and the presenter at that place, was saying that the non-oil revenue continued to dwindle because while the oil revenue, that was about 3 or 4 years ago, while the oil revenue continued to go up. I now ask the question, why are you really investing that much as you are investing in the oil sector into other sectors? If you don't get, to invest, you're not likely to reap from that sector. Now, when you talk about enumeration of taxpayers, we don't know who the taxpayers are supposed to be. When you talk about training and the training of the administrators, that is the tax revenue officials, we don't have it. When you talk about technology, we are far from being there.
Okay.
So tell me, how will we not be having quite a low percentage of people or taxpayers being brought into the dragnet? What we are supposed to do is to do a total reform of the system, and that includes, of course, the implementing what is inside that national tax policy.
Okay. Beyond all of that, too, people want to know, because even civil servants and other workers who are paying tax are not in the know because of what they call the complexities of tax code. Is there a defined percentage that one is supposed to pay as a salary earner as tax?
Well, let me take it totally, because you are referring to payee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When you want to build a house, you give it to, you give the assignment of drawing up or drawing the sketches and everything to an architect. When someone is sick, the person goes to the doctor. Just like you have in the tax in tax industry.
That's right.
We have people that are registered and are professionals in that line, and they are tax consultants and registered with Central Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. By the time you have any problem, either an individual or a corporate organization, try and approach those professionals, and I'm sure they're going to really advise you. Now, coming back to your question, on PE, the tax rates are graduated, you know, going from 7% up to 24%. That's why we say that the higher you pay, I mean, the higher you earn,
The higher your tax.
the more you pay to the government.
Okay.
But generally,
Is there a basic percentage for someone who is just at the new point of entry, for instance, into the civil service?
like I said, the more you pay, I mean, the more your income is, the more you pay. The basic, if you have less, if you earn 30, I mean, if your income is 1%, if 1% of your income is less than what you are supposed to have paid,
Okay.
then of course you are going to pay that 1%. That is the basic.
I see.
You cannot go below that.
Okay.
But in according to the tax law, once you earn an income, whether it's on part-time basis or full-time basis, the income has to be taxed.
There's also the issue of the appropriate tax authority to administrate several taxes. You recall that the crisis between the Lagos state and the federal government on the tax jurisdiction of VAT is still in a very contentious issue that has been taken to the courts. Why is it that we've not been able to define the responsibility of these various governments at different levels along this line?
Decree 21 of 1998 actually defined taxes to be collected by different levels of government.
Government, okay.
The problem that Lagos State was having with federal was that VAT was not part of what should have been put under the federal.
Okay.
But it should have been under the Lagos State, under the state administration. That's the major problem that they have, and they are fighting with the federal government. Now, in respect of what should be paid, we have them listed, the 3 tiers of government in that particular act, or let me say decree 21 now. For the federal government, you have the common income tax, the VAT, you have stamp duty that belongs to the federal government. You also have payee in respect of people living in Abuja and military personnel and whatnot. For the state government, you have them there, the payee of state personnel, or payee of people residing within the particular state. That is how you determine now the area of jurisdiction. Because if you are resident, say for example, in Ogun State, by resident now, not by the place of work. If you are resident in Ogun State, for example, you cannot be paying your tax in another state. Likewise, in Lagos, if you are resident there, you cannot be paying your tax in another state. Of course, you also have some other items that should be paid, taxes that should be paid. You have the withholding tax, which is like an advance tax. You have stamp duty that belongs to individuals. For local government, you have quite a lot of them. Shop permit, whatever.
What happens if you do not work where you're resident? For instance, you live in Ogun and then you work in Lagos.
The law says you pay according to the place of residence. That's what the law says.
So even if I live in Ogun and I work in Lagos, I pay my tax to Ogun State.
Of course.
Quite interested. Quite interested. But then we have a very short time to ask you quite a number, quite many questions here. But let's also quickly touch on these austerity measures. The federal government has now increased the target for the Federal Inland Revenue Service. How does that affect the ordinary Nigerian worker? Are we expecting a higher number in the tax that we pay now?
Let me say that for any tax regime to be in operation, like I said earlier on, there must be law.
I see.
So if the government would, by any chance, increase the tax rate, it must pass through the National Assembly. So that's where the populace must watch it.
Okay.
Now, in terms of what has been given to the agency of governments like FRS, I think what they are just trying to tell them is to go forward and really bring a lot of people into the dragnet. Okay. We should not forget the fact that we have quite a lot of these people in the informal sector still very much outside the system. So the government is just trying to tell them, look, find a way of bringing those people into the dragnet. I can tell you something. If FRS is given the chance, and like FRS is autonomous, just like a lot of these state revenue offices, if they are given the chance and the backing that they require, we are going to realize quite a lot of money from that sector, from the taxation sector. because that is just the normal way of running the government. And that will, of course, translate Nigerians into responsible and responsive citizens.
How does this taxation affect people who are not employed under organized systems, market women, taxi drivers, conductors? Because there are questions on who collects tax on whose behalf. Can you clear the air as regards this?
With regards to their income tax, they will pay according to their residence. I've mentioned that. I've mentioned that before. Now we tend to believe that some incomes are not taxable. No, there is no income by an individual that is not taxable. Some income might be exempted, but not those of individuals really. Okay. Yeah, like the person that is that sells pepper or whatever should be able to say at the end of the year in a normal environment how much was his or her income during that period.
I see.
And based on that, taxes will be computed. But we have not gotten there yet. What we are still trying to do is to at least bring them into the tax net. And I believe what some states are doing now, really, which I want to commend them for, is to give them a minimum amount to pay. By the time we do that, then the issue of educating them on adequate tax planning and payment of adequate tax will now come up.
Well, the question ultimately is, how do we grow a positive taxation culture in Nigeria? But then, how do we grow this culture in the face of infrastructural decay, where people are also asking, what are you doing with the taxpayers' money? What way forward?
Yeah, a taxpayer should not be concerned about what that person has actually paid as tax.
Okay.
But the revenue collected, the total revenue collected by the government. And that can only come up, you can only have the moral justification to ask questions when you have paid your own tax. So the first thing is, you pay your tax, pay adequate tax. Then when you say things within your environment, please speak out. It's because we are not ready to, talk. That is why we have found ourselves in this area. In other climes, they don't develop because they have docile citizens. And you cannot have good citizens that are not paying taxes, because you are not likely to be a stakeholder within that community. It's like belonging to an association, and they say your subscription is so amount, or you have not paid. Believe me, you won't be able to say anything until you make that payment. So the first thing is for us to make the payment. Then the second thing is to ask from the government what they are doing with the revenue collected. Okay. We have failed in most cases. In most cases, in the two, we have not made adequate payment, and in most cases, we don't really have people asking questions.
Let's wrap it up this way.
Just a minute. In other climes, as elections are coming up like this, and promises are being made, you ask people, look, okay, you promised me you promised us you are going to give us a bridge, you are going to go. Where will the money come from? Where will the funds come from? Is it from the increase in taxes or what? These are questions that we should be asking people that are coming out to campaign.
To campaign. Let's just wrap up this way. One of the loudest cries when we talk of taxation is multiple taxation. What's the outright answer and solution to this challenge in 1 minute?
I believe there is multiple taxation really. Then I believe there is ignorance of what taxes should be. Okay. Because taxes at times are confused with fees, with charges. At times when you have waste officials coming to your place and they are giving you bills, they are taxing you. At times when you even go somewhere and you have a roadblock and somebody say you must pay before, they are taxing you.
I just paid my tax.
Taxes are really different and should be seen as they're being different. In order to counter those multiple taxations, you need a consultant to actually do that.
Thank you very much for your contribution on the show today. We hope that you come back subsequently so that we can do justice to this. I've been speaking with Prince Razak Adekunle Quadri. He's a Nigerian accountant. He was also president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, as well as being elected the first president of West African Union of Tax Institutes. Once again, thank you for joining us on Core Digest. And that wraps it this Thursday. Tomorrow promises to be exciting if you choose to join us on Core Digest. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Stick around for the top of the hour news.
Core TV News, expanding your views.